Hi there! For those of you who are new to my audience, I'm just going to briefly tell you a little bit about who I am. So I'm Natasha Bray. I'm a success mastery coach, and I have grown my business, my current business as it stands now, from 0 to multi-7 figures in the last 3 years. And all of this was organically. In that time, I've also become a cash millionaire. And my life and my business, my world has dramatically changed. So I'm coming on today to share a little bit with you about how I made this happen in a relatively short amount of time. Do say hello if you're joining me live. I don't often go live on my personal page. A little nervous and excited all at the same time to have some interaction with you guys. I'm just gonna, I can't see any comments actually on here, so sometimes it tends to not show up on the phone. So what I'm gonna do is open this also on my computer so that if anyone does comment, I can at least reply to you. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to share with you about one of the key things that I had to work on to unlock this level of success in my life in a relatively short space of time. So there are 4 key things that I had to work on. I'm just going to go into detail on one of them with you in this video, because otherwise we'll be here all night. So I'm going to talk to you about the most important thing that I had to work on to unlock this huge amount of success in my life and in my business over the last 3 years in particular. So there are 4, which I call the success saboteur archetypes, but we're just going to talk about one tonight. So I'll just briefly explain what the 4 are. So on my own personal journey to where I am now, and also working with thousands of entrepreneurs that I've worked with over the last 3 to 4 years, I noticed common patterns coming up, or what I thought were blocks to business success coming up in myself and with every woman entrepreneur that I worked with. And what I very soon realised was these were not just blocks or patterns, these were in fact archetypes that every single female entrepreneur experiences and struggles with to varying degrees. And there are 4 archetypes. I call them the success saboteur archetypes. You've got the overgiver success saboteur, the imposter success saboteur, the outcast success saboteur, and the hustler success saboteur. And I'm going to be talking to you about the overgiver success saboteur in particular tonight. When you heal heal the root of all 4 of these saboteurs, you unlock what I call the leader archetype. So that's where you're able to really step up and lead yourself, lead your life, and lead your business. So this is how the healing of all 4 of these saboteurs is how I dramatically shifted my reality, both in my life and in my business over the last 3 years. So the overgiver success saboteur, which was my first one that I worked on and probably the strongest one for me, that one, I'm going to tell you all about that tonight, because you are going to resonate with this. Even if you don't think that you have a strong overgiver currently, when I go through explaining how it shows up and how it might be impacting you, I can promise you're going to find yourself in this explanation. So the overgiver success saboteur archetype. So if you have a strong overgiver success saboteur, you are someone who has a strong desire to help others, but this often comes at a sacrifice to yourself. Hi, welcome ladies, welcome. This comes at a sacrifice to yourself. So what happens is you have this deep desire to help people. Sometimes that goes along with rescuing, wanting to rescue people or save people. Now, whilst this can be a good quality, of course, it's actually something that comes at a sacrifice to yourself and dramatically can impact your health and your life and your business negatively if you don't free yourself from it. So let me know if any of this is resonating with you as well as I start to tell you about this. So how does this overgiver show up then? So overgiver also is very linked to people pleasing. So if you're someone who is a people pleaser, or you recognize that as a quality that you have, this is definitely for you. So you struggle to say no to people, and that comes at a detriment to you. So even if it's going to place a ton of extra stress and strain on you, you will say yes to everything, at the sacrifice to yourself, to your family life, to your personal time, and even to your health. So the problem with the overgiver is usually that you don't, but deep down, you don't believe that you're enough or lovable unconditionally. So you're trying to prove yourself to others through what you can give to them, rather than just knowing that you're enough as you are and you have nothing to prove. So how does this actually show up? Well, I'm going to list a few things here, and I want you to let me know if any of this resonates with you. And just comment on the video. I'm not sure. Just say hello if you're joining me live, just so I can make sure that comments are working. And let me know if it resonates with you as I'm going through this. So the key thing with the overgiver is that deep down, as I mentioned, you don't believe that you're lovable or enough unconditionally as who you really are. So you're using overgiving to people as a way of getting people to like you, or as a way of staying safe. And I'll go into that a bit deeper shortly. But this lack of self-love, so this inability to believe that I am enough exactly as I am, we would say that that's a lack of self-love. It leads to you always putting yourself at the bottom of the list. So everyone else and everything else comes before you. But you are doing this. It's not other people expecting that. You are the one putting yourself in that position. This can lead to self-neglect. It can lead to self-sacrifice. Brittany, I practiced saying no last week, turned down a $1,500 client because it wasn't within a timeline that suited me. The past me would have said yes for me. Yeah, that is like a huge, amazingly positive step in your business journey, Brittany. I remember the time where I said no to a client, and it wasn't that long ago. It was like, but having that boundary, honouring yourself and your needs in that moment is like is significant to your next level of business. And it was only last week, so you might not have recognised how significant it is just yet, but I can promise you that's going to have such a big impact and change things. It's you saying like what I am willing to stand for and what I'm not willing to stand for, basically. And this is something that someone with strong overgiver success saboteurs struggles with. So this is a testament to the healing that you've already been doing around this. So other ways that this overgiver shows up then is this really, hi Emma, welcome lovely, welcome Sue, is confidence issues. Because you don't feel good enough, you're constantly trying to prove yourself to others. And it's not, like I say, it's not other people always expecting this. This is the expectations that you put on yourself. So you might not feel confident enough to charge well for what you do. A very common symptom, so to speak, of how this shows up is undercharging and over-delivering in your business. And I do believe that we should always over-deliver a little to our clients, so delight and surprise them with something extra. But there's a big difference between over-delivering and over-giving. And when you keep over-giving to clients, so undercharging and over-giving, it can lead to you feeling resentful, taken advantage of, and really starting to not feel great about your business and the work that you do. And that's not the best environment for your business. Like, we've gone into business because we're passionate about what we do, and we wanted something different. We wanted a life of freedom. We wanted a life where we get to wake up every day and do what we love. And if you're stuck deeply overgiving to people at the sacrifice to yourself, It leads to burnout and resentment and all these horrible feelings that just don't feel good. And yet we definitely have worked through these things in our business. Yeah. And actually this comes up at every level you grow to. So I am now at the multi-7 figure level for the last 12-month turnover. And every new level I've grown to, there's been like a new test or layer of the overgiver success saboteur that I've had to work through. So other examples of how this shows up. So looking for approval and permission from others. So one of the key factors behind this overgiver success saboteur, where it comes from essentially, is for some people, it's actually a trauma response. So most of us have heard about fight, flight or freeze trauma responses. But there's actually a fourth trauma response. It's called fawn, and it's an extreme form of people pleasing to stay safe. So your overgiver success saboteur, if this is a strong one for you, could actually be coming from your belief that you need to overgive or please others in order to stay safe because of experiences that you've had in your past. Now we'll go into that in a bit more detail when we look at where this comes from as well, but it's important to mention that here. And this is why you seek approval or permission from other people, because your belief deep down or subconsciously, it might not be something that's on the surface, is that if you do something someone doesn't like, they will reject you, they will abandon you, they won't like you, and you will be hurt in the process. That's some of the thinking that goes on underneath this particular saboteur. So what you might find also is, even though you are a woman now, you're still seeking that approval from your parents even. So the approval and permission from your parents, and sometimes that transfers onto coaches and mentors as well. So you won't move forward with things in your business unless you feel like you've had the permission or approval to do that from another adult. So that permission and approval is placed externally as a way of trying to stay safe within certain relationships in your life, rather than coming from within, and knowing that you have the power to do that now. You don't need to give that permission and approval from someone else. You can give that to yourself. Another way that it shows up is staying in a business or a career that somebody else wanted for you. So what happens quite a lot is, as young adults, we go into careers that our parents wanted for us rather than what we really wanted to do. Who resonates with that? Because we want to make the people we love proud. But that is sacrificing our own wants and needs for what other people expect from us. So when you have a strong overgiver, deep down there's these feelings almost that I don't really matter, my needs are not important, other people are more important than me. And so you learn to always put others first. And it's very, very hard to put yourself first. You might resonate with this being an earlier version of you, or it can come up in different ways still, even though you've worked on this significantly. You also believe that putting other people first makes you a good person. And it does. It's a good quality. Oh, we're back. Sorry about that, guys. I never have connection problems and then it decides to go as I am brave and alive for a change on my personal page. So let's get back to how this shows up then. One of the deep fears behind this overgiver success saboteur is if you don't please other people and don't make them like you through overgiving to them, that you might be abandoned. So usually this is because you've experienced a situation where you were physically or emotionally abandoned by someone that you loved in childhood, and this was a very painful experience. So your part of the driver behind this overgiver is you don't want to experience that pain of feeling abandoned or not liked or rejected again. So you are trying to essentially control what people think of you through overgiving to them. This is a very masculine energy and is not the energy of receiving. Okay, so if you're too busy overgiving to people all of the time, very often there's huge blocks around your ability to receive from others. So you won't let others help you. You struggle to even receive payment for the work that you do, often discounting or saying, well, don't worry, you don't need to pay me for that, I'll just do that for free. Like, these are some of the ways it can show up. Perfectionism is another common sign of this particular saboteur. So you believe that you need to be perfect to, again, so that others will like you. And what happens is you wear this mask almost where you're not your true self. And that mask that you wear, the overgiver mask, is your way of staying safe and feeling liked by people, which is totally normal to feel and want that, but it's coming from a wounded place, and that mask is stopping you from reaching your full potential. It might be helping you feel like it's keeping you safe, but actually it's blocking you from receiving all the things that you're destined to receive. It's blocking you from your full potential because you're not showing up as who you really are. And for me in particular, when I let go of all of these things, started to just show up as my imperfect self, I attracted a lot more clients and a lot more success because people were connecting to me rather than connecting to the fake mask that I was wearing. And connection is so important in terms of growing your business, connecting to your audience and securing more clients and more sales for your business. The biggest thing, and this is the thing that will affect you at every level you grow to, and is something Brittany mentioned earlier, is this inability to have boundaries or struggle to maintain boundaries. And that's in your personal life, in your personal relationships, even with like partners and children, for example, parents who still overstep the boundaries in your life even though you're an adult now. And especially in business. Another symptom, and let me know if you resonate with any of these. Jamie, yeah, this was so me. Thank F, not anymore. I know. I'm going to tell you how my overgiver showed up in a little, after going through these symptoms of how it shows up. The over-delivering and the undercharging part, that can be you at any level of business. Okay, it's not just people starting out. But this is a massive, massive trigger for burnout, essentially. And other ways it can show up is not business related, but it can be things like struggling with your weight, struggling with debt, overspending, shopping addictions, and relationship issues. Jamie, wealth and worth has changed so much for me, along with some other things. Yeah, all of the archetypes, the 4 different success saboteurs, they are interlinked. So you can heal one and it can impact another, but there's very specific aspects linked to each one that we go deeper in through the different healing experiences for that. So what causes this then? So we've already touched on a couple of these things, but essentially, as I mentioned earlier, it's a mask. It's a survival mechanism, a mask that you learn to wear as a child because you've gone through a difficult or painful experience that left you feeling not enough or not lovable unconditionally. The unconditionally part is important. Many people who work with me, or thinking about working with me, they say to me or to themselves, but I haven't gone through big trauma in my life. Because I've gone through a lot of trauma in my life to get to where I am today. And people think that you only have these success saboteurs if you've experienced big trauma. But that's not true. Because we've all been through something in our lives where we felt not good enough. It's the feeling that you're left with from the experience or the relationship or the interaction that's caused it, rather than the actual event itself. Okay? So we've all been through something where we felt not good enough as a child. Even if it wasn't intentional or wasn't meant to be that way. It could have been something like your older sibling was always better at everything than you, so you always compared yourself to them and felt not good enough. Now, that wasn't intended to hurt or wound or traumatize you in any way, but that was your perception of what happened, and it impacted your ability to believe in how enough you are. Another common one that happens quite a lot is a lot of my clients say to me, I know I was loved by my parents, but I didn't feel loved. And there's a very big difference between knowing that you're loved and feeling that you're loved. And you have to feel lovable unconditionally to truly let go of this overgiver success saboteur. Now, what happens is none of this was intentional, and we don't think of this as trauma, but I like to use the word wound more than trauma because it just feels a little bit less scary and heavy, but they're the same thing, essentially. And it leaves this wound on your heart, essentially, that if you believed that your parent didn't love you or didn't love you unconditionally, it can affect you right into adulthood until you realise this and are able to heal it. So usually when this happens, it's because your parent had a different love language to you. So they were showing you love in the way that they knew how to show it, but it wasn't resonating. You weren't feeling loved because your love language was a different love language to them. Yeah. So they did love you and they were showing you love, but you didn't feel it. And this has actually contributed to this overgiver success saboteur and holding yourself back from your full potential in your business and in every other relationship that you have in your life today. So that's how the overgiver success saboteur develops. There's a different root cause for all of us. I'm just giving you a few examples of it. And it is a safety mechanism, a protection mechanism, because it's painful. It's painful as an adult to feel not good enough. It's painful as an adult to feel not loved for who you are. So imagine how painful that is as a child, where you've got less coping mechanisms and ways of dealing with these difficult emotions at that young age. So I'm going to go through some different ways or different contributing causes, essentially, to where your overgiver may have come from if you resonate with what I'm sharing today. So feeling not loved or not good enough, which we just mentioned. Feeling unsafe at home or school. So this is where the people pleasing and overgiving comes in as a trauma response. So I was severely bullied in school. So I learned to people please in school to try and stay safe from the bullying. Any form of abandonment, so whether that was feeling physically abandoned, intentionally abandoned, unintentionally abandoned, and especially emotional abandonment, which is something that not a lot of people realise is an actual thing, to be honest. And emotional abandonment is where you experience a lack of love or warmth from a parent. Again, this could be intentional or unintentional, or even just perceived and not the actual reality. So that example where you knew you were loved but didn't feel it because you didn't feel that warm, loving connection with a parent due to having different love languages, for example. Another way or thing that significantly contributes to this overgiver is feeling feeling as if you were only loved or praised when you were doing something for others. We can see how that can translate into adulthood and the overgiver in you today. So you were only praised or loved when you were doing something or giving to others, rather than just feeling praised and loved for who you are, who you were being. So you experience that praise and love for giving rather than being. Maybe you had a perfectionist parent who also had a strong overgiver, so you learned that that is how you should show up in the world. They could have been a perfectionist or critical parent themselves. So we have parents who have wounds. Well, we all have wounds. Our parents have wounds. Their parents had wounds too. These are just normal things. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. But if you experience that an overly critical parent or an overly perfectionist parent, that would have made you feel not good enough, because no one can be perfect. Then you have experiences like bullying or severe abuse. So this is like the bigger scale of the trauma that can lead to this overgiver success saboteur. And that's any form of abuse. So any form of abuse in the family home or outside of the family home. And bullying in school. Bullying is abuse. Okay, I think we underplay bullying. And as adults who may have gone through bullying in our childhood, I think we underplay and undervalue actually how terrifying it is as a child to experience that. Bullying in adulthood is not called bullying, it's called violence, abuse, GBH, ABH, and people get arrested for it. But for some reason, it's called bullying and it's downplayed if you went through that as a child. It's abuse, it's violence, it made you feel unsafe. It's not okay to have gone through that. But this bullying or abuse is a significant contributor to your overgiver success saboteur. Another common root cause linked to this is something called parentification. So if you don't know me, well, I've got a background in social work. Working with abuse and family dynamics is something that I've done all of my transformational career. And one thing that can lead to a very strong overgiver is this thing called parentification, and I'll explain that if you're not sure what that is. It's when you have to become a carer at a young age. So you essentially are still a child, but you have to become a parent to your siblings, whether it's younger or older siblings sometimes, or even a parent to your own parent, because your parent might have had health issues or an addiction, or even mental health issues like depression, where they weren't able to get out of bed, and so you had to step up and look after yourself. Sometimes to yourself, even not necessarily to others, at a very young age. So what happens with this particular situation is you're expected to do things that are way above your age role, your age that are not age appropriate. And because nobody, God, not even adult parents can parent properly without making mistakes. It's very hard for a child to do that without and meet these unrealistic expectations that are placed on them to be adults, essentially. So it leaves you in this permanent state of never feeling good enough, and that significantly contributes to this overgiver success saboteur. Because you learned that you had to caregive. You learned that you had to overgive and look after others and put other people first from a very young age, if that resonates with you. Another significant contributor, and this links in with the overgiving being a trauma response and a way of keeping safe, is if you had a narcissistic parent. So, or very dysfunctional family dynamic. Narcissistic parenting is abusive, but not everybody relates it in that way. So I wanted to make a distinction between that, because when there's a narcissistic parent, there is usually also a codependent parent. And the overgiver success saboteur is a form of codependency. So you might have learned to be an overgiver from the codependent parent that you had, but also you could have learned to overgive as a way of staying safe from the narcissistic parent, to sort of stay out of their way. And this one also links in with the other saboteurs too, but we're just focusing on the overgiver today. So this narcissistic family dynamics, they tend to not have any boundaries. I've worked with clients where parents didn't respect their boundaries at all. Not just in narcissistic family dynamics, in any family dynamic really. Christine, will this live be available for replay? Missed the first bit. Yeah, it's going to be on my personal page, and every day I'll be coming on and talking about the different success saboteurs to see if I can help people with this knowledge. So, I've had clients who had parents who like took their bedroom doors off, so they had no physical boundaries and no privacy. Parents that would walk in on them in the bathroom as teenagers, and like no boundaries. Boundaries were just not normal or allowed in their home. So as you can imagine, growing up, having had those experiences as children, is very difficult for you to believe that you can have boundaries and be safe to have boundaries now. Especially and this goes for anyone, not just narcissistic families, if you did not feel safe to ever say no to something as a child. So if by saying no you knew you were going to be punished, well, of course you're going to struggle to say no as an adult, because your mind has got an association with saying no and being in danger, being punished, whatever that punishment was. So this is what, these are all different things that feed into this overgiver success saboteur, and everybody has this, but it's to varying degrees in each person. So for me, how did this overgiver show up for me? And this has been like one of the biggest saboteurs that I've personally had to overcome to grow my business to where it is now, financially and successfully, but also to be able to have healthy relationships in my life. And I've actually got a test that you can do online that helps you identify what your top success saboteur is. So we've all got all four, but we've got one that's stronger than the others. And you can go do this test on my website, www.natashabray.co.uk. But I've got, I think, 2,500 women entrepreneurs have gone through this test so far. It's free to do if you want to go and do it. And the top result is the overgiver. This is the one that most women entrepreneurs, I think it worked out, it was something like 33% of people who have done this test have the overgiver as their strongest success saboteur that's impacting their life and business. So this is a really big common issue amongst women entrepreneurs that is leading to people really undervaluing themselves, undercharging, burning out, being taken advantage of. And I'm very passionate about helping to break this pattern. So for me, this was my biggest success saboteur as well. And it was the first one that I worked on in this journey to where I am now. So how it showed up for me in terms of my life, I went through severe childhood abuse all through my childhood years, all through my teenage years, and I was also bullied in school. So I had nowhere that I felt safe. And what this led to, I definitely didn't feel good enough, and I definitely didn't feel loved unconditionally. So as I got older, this led to toxic relationships. I felt like I had so much love to give, and I just wanted to love and be loved. That's a key thing I think a lot of people with a strong overgiver feel. You feel like you've got so much love to give, and you end up giving it through your business, helping people, which can be a positive thing, but not if it's at a sacrifice to yourself. Okay, there's the key difference there. And so I would end up in these toxic relationships where I was always trying to get the guy to love me. What's wrong with me? I used to think, what's wrong with me? I'm doing everything I can to make this person happy, yet they still treat me like shit. So these are the types of relationships. This was how it's shown up in my life. These are the types of relationships I was attracting. People who would take advantage, abusive people. I've been in domestically violent relationships. It's not a surprise based on the childhood that I had. Abusive relationships where I thought I was the problem, and I kept trying to please them and overgive to them and be whatever they wanted, what I thought they wanted me to be, because I thought there was something wrong with me, not actually realizing there was something wrong with them. And also it leads to like a mothering dynamic in relationships. And this is something I've seen with my clients as well. When you've got a very, very strong overgiver success saboteur, it can lead to a mothering dynamic in a romantic relationship rather than a romantic partner dynamic. So that was how it would show up in my personal relationships. In my business, like, I was the queen of undercharging. So I had a online course that I charged £14 for, and the people who signed up to it had lifetime access and support, which is just crazy. And I gave everything to that program. And as I started to make some shifts in my own enoughness, my own self-worth, my own confidence, to start to charge accordingly for what I did, some people didn't like that. So what happens when you start to heal your overgiver success saboteurs? You start to put more boundaries in place, which is so important. You cannot grow a business past multi-6 figures, in my opinion, without healthy boundaries in place, without completely burning out and crashing in the process. So healing this is essential. There's no way I would have got to multi-7 figures in my business today if I hadn't healed multiple layers of this overgiver success saboteur. So I used to dramatically undercharge. I would be so rammed with clients. I would work 12-hour days with clients as a therapist, and even though I was fully booked months in advance, I couldn't say no if someone wanted to work with me. And initially I thought it was because I needed the money. I was a single mum. My son was just 10 months old when I went full-time into my business, and I didn't know where the next bit of income was coming from. But then when I started to have consistent 5-figure months, consistent multi-5-figure months, and I still couldn't say no, like I would literally fit people in. All they needed to do was bat their eyelashes at me and be like, but I really need this sooner. And I would just be like, okay, where can I fit it in? Weekends, personal time, date night with my partner went out the window. I realised there was nothing to do with the money. It was because I did not have the ability to have healthy boundaries. Because I needed to save and rescue people, and that meant sacrificing myself. So my worth was attached to that also. And as I say, I think this can get you to a certain level of success, but everything's going to come crashing down. So I was really struggling to say, let me know if any of this resonates. So severely undercharging, giving lifetime access to things, was also severely undercharging. I don't do lifetime access anymore. I actually think lifetime access is a symptom of overgiving, the overgiver success saboteur. I struggled in relationships, so I was trying to make people love me, the wrong people, and then thinking it was all something wrong with me, when it wasn't. I wasn't. My lack of boundaries, and also my inability to see that I was enough and lovable as I am, not for what I do, contributed to me seeking out unhealthy relationship dynamics. I was answering clients all hours of the day, literally all hours of the day. No boundaries around that. So on my personal Facebook Messenger, emails, whatever it was like I couldn't make anyone wait. I had to respond immediately, even if I was in the middle of a date with my partner or doing bedtime with my son. So this very extreme lack of boundaries, or struggles with implementing boundaries. So you might feel guilty if you try and have boundaries in your personal life or in your business. And what I found was that I had a sense of wholeness from helping people. And while that is an amazing thing also, your wholeness, your self-worth, your ability to know that you're enough should not depend on an external thing, because that can be taken from you. and it can send you into a crisis. It needs to come from within. So all of this for me came from being, in dynamics around abusive adults and narcissistic adults and bullying and unsafe experiences throughout my childhood. And I see this overgiver success saboteur so strongly in almost every woman that I work with. And it's having a huge detriment to your health, your life, your personal relationships, and your business. And that's why it needs to change. So who here has big goals for their business? Who here would love to have like 5-figure months, multi-5-figure months? But you right now you think it's not possible because you're like, how the hell can I give even more? Because I already give so much. But I believe in having that financial success in a way that means you don't have to sacrifice yourself, you don't have to overgive, but you also get to have balance in your life. Time for relationships, time for your partner, time for your children if you've got children, time for your friends, time to just be a woman who is not a mother, partner, sister, daughter, or entrepreneur, but just time to be a woman, to just be you. And I don't think a lot of people actually have that. So how do we change this? Well, we need to heal the root causes of this overgiver success saboteur for you. And I take people through a process that's called success imprinting. It's where we heal the root causes on 5 different levels. So it's multi-level healing that gets multi-level results. So it's the mind level, which is where most people do the work, but that's not enough. It doesn't go deep enough. So I work on the 5 levels: mind, heart, soul, action, and energy, to have that multi-level healing impact. And my clients get really fast, dramatic results within 1 to 2 weeks of starting this work. So what we need to do specifically for healing the overgiver success saboteurs, we need to imprint unconditional self-love on all these 5 different levels by healing the root causes of this particular success saboteur. And by doing this, it allows you to know that you are enough. Not just know, feel and believe that you are enough unconditionally. And to have the ability to love yourself and lead yourself with love. Start to implement healthy boundaries in your life and in your business so that you can receive more instead of overgiving and giving all of the time. So healing this allows you to open your heart to receiving. And everyone's got a different idea of what that more is to them. For me, it's receiving more love and more money and more success. For you, it might be a different combination of things. When you heal the overgiver success saboteur, your business success will dramatically shift. And every relationship in your life will also shift. You won't put up with toxic and negative behavior anymore. You'll be able to increase your prices and charge what you're worth confidently, because you know that you're enough and you deserve to be paid well for what you do. You stop giving away freebies and extras to people above and beyond what they paid for in your package. Your heart will be more open to receiving. This is a key thing. So as I mentioned earlier, your overgiver success saboteur is a very masculine energy. It's the energy of doing, giving, action. And when you're too far in your masculine energy, you don't have a lot of balance with your feminine energy. And that feminine energy is the energy of receiving. Like love, for example. If you just give love all the time and you never get any back, it's not a very good dynamic. There needs to be an equal exchange in terms of your services, what you're giving to people, and the money that you're receiving in return for things to be in balance. When you heal this, you're able to have healthy boundaries. So when I had a strong overgiver, when people had healthy boundaries with me, it really triggered me. But not because I didn't think they were allowed to have those boundaries. It triggered me because I couldn't do that for myself. I realized that that was healthy, but why wasn't I able to do it for myself? And that's what the trigger was. It was highlighting to me something that I wasn't able to do. But when you heal the overgiver success saboteur, you're able to have those healthy boundaries, whether that's saying no to a client because you're not going to sacrifice yourself and your health and your personal time to squeeze another client in. Whether it's saying no to a client because they're not the right client for you and you've got alarm bells ringing that this is not someone that you want to work with, but when you're an overgiver, you'll say yes anyway and end up in toxic or potentially toxic situations with clients with the victim mindset, for example. Or you're not going to do work for people first without being paid for it, and then have people ghost you and not pay you. Can you see how significant this is to receiving money, especially healing of this overgiver saboteur? You're able to have healthy boundaries. And as I mentioned earlier, there's absolutely no way I would have been able to grow to multi-7 figures in my business, or even 7 figures, without having boundaries in place. When I got to multi-6 figures, the foundations were so rocky because I hadn't healed this overgiver success saboteur properly. And that was a whole new journey then of learning to have boundaries to, I guess, send the message out really that I was ready for this next level in business. When you've healed the overgiver, you don't compare yourself anymore. You don't feel the need to be perfect. You feel more comfortable just being you and showing up as your true self. And this helps you to have more connection and intimacy, not just with partners and friendships, but in your business, with your audience and your clients too. And this connection, true connection, leads to better relationships with your audience, more trust from your audience, and more sales as a result. Because people feel like they're connecting to the real you, not to a mask. And you're able then to essentially have more success, more love, and more money in your life in a shorter space of time by healing this particular success saboteur. So we all have this. Like I said, we've all got this overgiver to some degree. We might think that we've healed it, or we've worked on ourselves and we've seen shifts in this area. But what happens is they can come up stronger at different points in your life, especially transition periods. So the transition periods are things like shifting up a level in your business. So whether that's going from a 5k month to a 5-figure month, or shifting from one-to-one work to group programs, shifting from an offline business to an online business, or shifting from a full-time job to your business. These are transition periods in business where all your success saboteurs like to come up really strongly in transition periods, but one in particular that you think you've worked on or healed is going to come up really strongly for you during the transition. And this is usually your primary saboteur, the one that has been the biggest one for you throughout your life. And I used to beat myself up when this happened, thinking, why is this coming up again? I thought I'd healed this. I thought I'd dealt with this. And again, I used to beat myself up thinking, well, there must be something wrong with me. But there's nothing wrong with you. What I learned in this journey personally was that we're not something broken that is fixed. Your healing, your personal development is a continuous journey. And every time you grow to a new level, a new layer will be uncovered. But once you've done the core healing around it, you're able to work through this a lot quicker. You're able to recognize it. Oh, that's my overgiver success saboteur. I know what I need to do now. Once you've done the core healing, you can just implement a few things to work through it and break through it really quickly. When you haven't healed this or don't have an awareness of this, you can literally live your whole lifetime not even realizing that these saboteurs are impacting on you. Jamie's just shared something. Somehow I had multi-5-figure months without healing this, but it's so much harder than now. Crazy on reflection. Yeah, as you said, not a sturdy foundation in the way I have now. Not remotely. Yeah, and it's really, really hard to sustain that and stay sane at the same time. 98% of my work was one-to-one. Now it's much more balanced. Only 2 one-to-one clients. Everything else is group and passive. Yeah, which I could never imagine before. Absolutely. And that, it's been a significant contributor for my shift, because my business is probably now around 85% group and passive and 15% one-to-one, and it used to be 90% one-to-one, so. But this is another way it shows up. Actually, you believe that your clients will only get results through one-to-one, and you feel responsible for your clients' results as well. And I always say to my clients, because they, so many of my clients believe this, you're not responsible for your clients' results, you're responsible for giving them the tools to get their own results. You cannot be responsible for saving people. You can only empower people to save themselves. There's a big difference in that. Yeah, so interesting how the codependency stuff drives overworking. Yeah, and it feels real, but it's BS. Absolutely. So this particular overgiver success saboteur is what we're working on next in my Ultimate Up Level Academy. So each success saboteur has a 6-week healing experience around it. And even people who think that they haven't got a strong overgiver success saboteur have seen dramatic shifts and results in their life as a result of healing this. Because as I said earlier, everyone at some point has felt not lovable or not enough, unconditionally at some point in their lives. And it affects every level of business you're at as well. So for anyone who this is resonating with, who wants to work through this, the Ultimate Up Level Academy is actually open for enrollment this week. We start in with the overgiver success saboteur, and we heal all the other ones as well across a 6-month journey together. So if you're interested in that, I'll pop the link on this video, or get in touch. Just drop me an inbox if you have any questions about that. Okay, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to be back tomorrow with the imposter success saboteur and talking to you about that one. So hopefully I will see some of you join me for that. Okay, bye for now.